this countdown, we have Halloween night. This legend surrounds a young woman who was giving out Halloween candy for the trick-or-treaters. When she was handing out candy to one batch of kids, she noticed a tall man wearing a Mickey Mouse mascot costume standing on her stairs. She thought that it was one of the kids' fathers. She told him that she liked his costume, commenting on how expensive it must have been. When she was done, she went back inside and waited for another group of trick-or-treaters. When she opened the door the second time, there was another group of kids, but the same man was still on her steps. It looked like he didn't move an inch. Then there was another knock on the door. This time, the man was even closer to her door. She immediately went back inside and called the cops. However, when she went to the kitchen, the man was now standing on her back porch. His head was pressed against the window and he was holding a knife. When the police arrived, they found the costume, but no man. That same night, it was said that a killer escaped police custody and stole the costume so that he could use it to get to his next victims. In our 8th spot, we have Cursed Mickey. Legend goes that there are a collection of creepy images of Mickey Mouse that are supposedly cursed. Apparently, if you see these photos, you will feel disoriented, uncomfortable, and anxious. Some of these photos include a disheveled and dirty looking Mickey hiding in an unfinished basement, a killer wearing a Mickey Mouse mascot head, and an image of Mickey Mouse with blood spewing from its eyes and mouth. Other people believe that if you view these images for too long, then Mickey Mouse will constantly haunt you in your dreams until the day you die. It's not very nice. Shame on you. In our 7th spot, we have Mickey's Slaughterhouse. Legend goes that one day a group of friends were watching Disney Junior as a joke when a disturbing episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse aired. The episode was about Minnie's picnic and everyone was getting ready to attend the event. That's when it takes a dark turn. Mickey and Goofy enter the clubhouse and open the closet to reveal Pete's mangled body shoved in it. His legs were completely gone and he had bite marks all over his body. They then carry Pete to another room. In this room, a bunch of other characters in similar conditions were hung up. Pete was then added to that collection. That's when the friends turned off the TV. They were so disturbed they just couldn't watch anymore. I kind of wanted to see how it ended. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the abandoned Disney. According to this legend, there is an abandoned Disney park where terrifying things happen. The narrator says that he decided to one day explore this abandoned park. It was filled with broken souvenirs and eerie noises. While exploring the park, he came across a door that said mascots only. This is where true terror awaits. The room was filled with a bunch of mascot suits hanging on the wall. He decided to take the head off the Donald Duck costume and a human skull tumbled out of it. But that's not all. In the middle of the room was a Mickey Mouse costume. He tried to take a picture of it, but that's when the mascot gets up and says, "Want to see me take off my head?" He then pulls his head off and yellow blood pours out from his neck. The narrator runs out of the park and the sign that used to say "Abandoned by Disney" now read "Abandoned by God." Making our way down the list, number 4, we have the Lost episode. The Lost episode was titled Mickey's Best Friend. It was a 10-minute cartoon that was shown in theaters on November 15th, 1929. In this episode, Mickey befriends an anthropomorphic dog named Eustace. Mickey becomes a little obsessed with Eustace and a bunch of residents in the town try to warn Eustace. Eustace eventually decides to leave this town as it's not a place that he can see himself settling down in. But Mickey takes this very badly. He doesn't want his new best friend to just abandon him. So he knocks him out with a rock and drags him to his basement. The next scene shows Eustace strapped down to an operating table. Eventually, Mickey conducts an experiment on Eustace, which causes him to become a regular dog loyal to Mickey. He can no longer talk. The scene ends with Mickey telling him that from now on, he will be referred to as Pluto. Wow. That's a dark episode. In our 2nd spot, we have the dark side. Legend surrounds a young girl named Abby who was a worker for Disney World. Since she was one of the newer workers, she got assigned to do some pretty bad tasks. One day, she was assigned to change the light bulbs over at River Country Park. Now, River Country Park was the first water park at Walt Disney World, but it's now abandoned. However, they still keep the lights on at the park. Some say it's to preserve the remaining magic. Well, anyways, a bunch of bulbs were out, so she and another worker went by after work to replace them. However, when they got there, all of the lights were out. Thinking that something was wrong with the circuit, the one worker went to the employee hut to investigate. But what he found was quite disturbing. While at the hut, he heard Mickey Mouse's high-pitched laugh. He turned around to see Abby standing behind him wearing a Mickey Mouse mascot head. Except the head was missing an eye, had lake water dripping from the fur, and a bite was taking out of the mouse's jaw. Abby began to tilt her head to the side and blood trickled down her neck. He tried to rip the head off of her, but the Mickey Mouse head hissed and foam started pouring out from under her head. Eventually, he got it off of her. She lay there white and clammy. That's when she said, "Help us." From that moment, Abby was never the same. Something or someone sucked the soul out of her body. And in our number one spot, we have the Mickey Mouse secret. This legend was posted by the Reddit user By Fells Disciples. He claims that he was a worker for Disney and he almost got killed from finding out a deadly secret. So this man's name was Sid and he was a janitor for Disney. One day he was underground in the tunnels taking his break. For those of you who haven't seen my other video, Walt Disney created a whole underground tunnel system for the characters to have a break and to secretly get to other locations in the park without having to like walk everywhere in costume. This is all to just preserve the magical feel of Disney. So Sid was taking his break when a costume Mickey Mouse came into the lounge and just sat opposite to him, staring at him. Sid ignored it at first, but he thought it was weird because the workers usually can't wait to rip the costumes off of them. But the mouse just sat there and stared at him. That's when he blinked. Like, not the actor in the costume, the mouse itself. Sid ran out of the room as fast as he could, but was stopped by security and a weird man in a fedora. That's when they offered Sid a vacation to Europe. Sid accepted, thinking that he had just been working too hard and was experiencing hallucinations. However, on his trip, he realized that all the other people on his tours had a connection to Disney. Clearly, Disney sent them on this trip for a reason. As a result, he stopped going on the tours. And it was a good thing that he did. A couple days later, a bridge collapsed and killed everyone on that tour group. Disneyland is hiding something and wanted to take out everyone who knew about it. Coming in at number 9, we have the fainting Mickey. It is no doubt that wearing those heavy, bulky costumes in the blazing sun and heat can take a toll on the actors' bodies. This urban legend states that one time Mickey Mouse actually fainted at the park and collapsed directly on a child. However, this has never happened. I mean, it is said that back in the 1960s, the actors had to wear those costumes for hours before having a break. But now they can only be in the sun for 30 minutes, and some even wear vests that are filled with ice packs to prevent them from overheating. It is said that costumes can weigh up to 47 pounds, and in 2005 there were 282 costume-related injuries. So the possibility of an actor passing out on a hot day definitely doesn't surprise me. In our 8th spot, we have the real Mickey Mouse. This urban legend states that at the peak of his fame, Walt Disney himself would go around the park dressed up in a Mickey Mouse costume. That way, he would be able to enjoy the park without being swarmed by families. I mean, that would be pretty cool if you got to meet him and you didn't even know it. But it was also a way for him to gather intel from those families. So in a way, he was using his Mickey Mouse costume to spy on others. Like, just imagine him walking up and just Mickey listening to people's conversations. I mean, thankfully, this is just a legend, but I bet some workers at Disney have definitely heard and witnessed some pretty interesting things. In our 7th spot, we have the potty mouth Mickey. I mean, I'm sure it can be super tough to interact with those kids and adults and not be able to talk, like only using gestures all the time. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to do it. I'd have to put tape on my mouth, or else I would just be responding to all the questions they ask. Or if they're like, say hello, I'd be like, oh, hi, dang, you know? Or if they're like, okay, we're gonna take a photo, 1, 2, 3, say cheese, I'd just be like, cheese, shoot, you know? Now, this urban legend dates back to the early 2000s, and an employee who played Mickey was fired after repeatedly swearing at the children. It said that he would even secretly whisper profanities to the children while taking photos. Then the children would go throughout their day and repeat the swear words. Apparently, this worker just hated his job and was trying to get back at the park by damaging its reputation. Again, it's just a legend. The park is still the cheery place that we love. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the banned episode. So apparently there was a television episode of Mickey Mouse that got banned because it tackled more mature subject matter. In this video, it is said that Mickey catches Minnie cheating on him with none other than Donald Duck. As a result, Mickey then tries to get back at Donald and Minnie by setting up elaborate traps to try and harm them. But they never succeed since Goofy always sets them off and he gets hurt instead of them. The episode progresses with Mickey kidnapping Daisy to get revenge on Donald and then trying to kill himself using multiple different methods. But there is no video footage of this episode. It's just all a story from someone who claims that they saw it on TV before it got banned and permanently erased from history. In our fourth spot, we have the death of Mickey Mouse. This urban legend suggests that one of the actors that played Mickey Mouse at Disneyland committed after being overwhelmed from working there. Mickey Mouse is basically Disney's main mascot, so people are constantly swarming that character, and it has to be hard to stay in character all day in a heavy suit with poor ventilation. You also are faced with screaming and crying kids and rude parents all day. It was a very physically and mentally demanding job. Well, this all got to one of the employees, and it's said that he ended up taking his own life as a result. Legend states that his dead body was found in his house with a note by a pair of Mickey ears. The note read, "The mouse kills." Creepy. And in our number one spot, we have the trapped Mickey. So this is another theory surrounding the underground tunnels. Now, it is said that the tunnel system is very complex and it's very big. The characters are often driven around in golf carts to get them around faster. Well, legend surrounds a worker who apparently got lost in the tunnel system. So legend goes that a young man was a new worker to the team. He was one of the actors who got to dress up and play Mickey Mouse. Well, on the first day of his job, the other actors apparently decided to haze him, as they did to all new workers. As a result, they locked him in the tunnel system after his shift late at night. He was left in the tunnels all night in the complete dark. And of course, being new, he had no clue how to get around the tunnels. As a result, he spent the night wandering in the dark, hungry, trying to escape. When they found him in the morning, he was driven completely mad, with deep self-inflicted scratches all over his body. Of course, this never happened, and it's just a really creepy legend. Starting off this countdown, we have the virtual reality prison. The Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Come inside, it's fun inside. Or like, come inside, you're trapped inside. So this theory surrounds the idea that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is actually a virtual reality prison for Mickey. First, let's talk about Toodles. Toodles is the supercomputer that helps Mickey and his friends with any challenges that they face. It was invented by Donald Duck's uncle, Professor Ludwig von Drake. However, Toodles became too smart for his own good and trapped Mickey inside a simulation. Let's look at the facts. In the opening of every episode, Mickey summons the clubhouse with the chant, "Miska Muska Mickey Mouse," along with his friend. He also summons his friends, which are just simulations. Only with certain words will Toodles let things appear, just like how you need to say, "Oh Toodles," in order for Toodles to be activated. Much like how you say, "Hey Siri," or "Okay Google," to summon other AIs. Then every episode, Mickey faces some sort of challenge, which was designed by Toodles. Now Mickey has realized that the only way to escape this simulation is to trick Toodles into producing some sort of instrument that will let them escape. So every day, Mickey goes on these missions with hope that Toodles will mess up and provide them with some sort of key or just a way to break the simulation. Moving on at number 9, we have the animal forms. So Goofy is said to be a dog, but then you have Pluto, who is also a dog. However, Goofy can talk and act like a human, whereas Pluto still walks on his all fours and only barks. How come they're both the same species but are drastically different? Well, that's because Pluto was once a man, just like Goofy, but was drained entirely of his human capabilities. And this is what is currently happening to Goofy. So essentially, the clubhouse is a training program designed to bring animals back to their original forms. So for Daisy and Donald, they would get turned back into ducks, Minnie would get turned back to a mouse, and then Goofy back to a dog. Pluto was the first to go through this program and had a successful outcome. Goofy is the next one on the list. Notice how in the show Goofy always messes something up? Well, it's because he's slowly turning back into his dog form, so he can't make proper decisions. Soon, Goofy, along with the other clubhouse members, will all be turned back to their true animal forms. Making our way down the list, number 8, we have the dead friends. So this theory surrounds the idea that Peg Leg Pete, the villain on the show, actually ended up murdering all of Mickey's friends. He did this as a cruel punishment for Mickey to torture him. However, Pete was never caught for his murders. So now Mickey lives in protection in a place called the Clubhouse. That way, Pete can't get to him. He spends his days imagining that his friends are actually with him, and he goes on adventures with them. To support this is the fact that his friends don't arrive until he imagines the clubhouse. He also envisions that his new home is this brightly colorful and quite unusual looking place. This isn't the case. The only way Mickey can cope is to pretend that his friends are still there with him and that he's living in a magical looking Mickey clubhouse. And at number 7, we have the evil AI. So let's talk about and analyze Toodles a bit more. Is it possible that he could be a bad guy? Well, people are convinced that he indeed is. They believe that Toodles is in fact the mastermind behind all of the challenges that Mickey and his pals face. He makes these challenges purposely so that Mickey and his friends will call on him and ask for help. This allows Toodles to exercise his power over them, which makes him feel like he is in control. I mean, how else can Toodles always have the mystery Muscatool that will always finish the job? Because he already knows how the challenge will end since he created it. His goal is just to create chaos in Mickey's world and to make their lives more difficult. Now, Toodles has even went from being just a faceless Mickey Mouse shaped screen to now having a face that's capable of thoughts and feelings. Therefore, he keeps evolving and becoming more and more powerful. In our 6th spot, we have the representation of society. It is said that each Mickey Mouse character represents a different aspect of society. Mickey Mouse represents egotism, since he lives in a place where everything is shaped like him and it's named after him. He has a clubhouse that's shaped like his head, and he has items like Musker tools. Minnie represents the issue with female stereotypes, by her having to act all ditzy and being subservient to Mickey. Goofy represents the children now having short attention spans from the constant exposure to electronics, video games, and cartoons. And lastly, Pete represents the darker aspects of our society, like the violence and crime that's going on. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the captive mouse. Aren't Mickey and Minnie Mouse so cute together? They clearly are madly in love. Or are they? People theorize that Minnie is actually just under Mickey's spell. As a result, she is forced to be constantly devoted to him. Now, we do know that Mickey does know his way with magic, as seen in the feature film, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. So now, Minnie is forced to do everything that Mickey says. She no longer has her own free will. Her whole life will be spent being devoted to Mickey, catering to his needs. Coming in at number 4, we have Mickey's twisted head. You ever notice that Mickey's ears are always facing the camera? No matter which way he turns or moves his head, Mickey's ears are always shown facing us. That's physically impossible. This has led people to believe that Mickey is constantly straightening his head, so his ears appear as so. As a result of this constant cranial strain, it has caused Mickey to develop some sick tendencies, like imprisoning his friends and forcing them to live in a place that represents him. He is just obsessed with his appearance that he will go to extreme measures to always have his ears in that position. Moving on, in our 3rd spot, we have Pluto the slave. Poor Pluto, he just wants to live a normal life. But he can't because Mickey has him trapped. So this is a different theory surrounding the fact that both Goofy and Pluto are dogs, but Pluto is less human and more dog than Goofy. Pluto lacks the ability to speak and can only articulate his thoughts through barks and gestures. Well, Mickey Mouse is forcing Pluto to be his slave. Pluto used to be like Goofy. He talked, walked on 2 feet, and was capable of complex thoughts and feelings. This was until Mickey forced him to walk on his all fours to establish dominance over him. Years of doing so has caused dystrophy in his back legs. Then Pluto wasn't allowed to talk, losing his ability to speak and only grunt. Mickey also always kept Pluto chained up outside with only a collar. After years of doing this, he morphed into an actual dog.